Hey everyone, John here, and I am currently in Germany for Gamescom. And I've had the chance to play a bunch of Nintendo Switch 2 games on show because Nintendo's at the show. And the first two I want to talk about, we'll put the others in a separate video, are Kirby Air Riders and also Hollow Knight Silksong. And by the way, Hollow Knight's line dwarves everything. I got into the show before Gamescom even began, and I thought, okay, we'll just mosey around. There's no rush, no one's here. And look behind me. And others who snuck in early had already formed a line for Silksong. No other game had a line. And even in the peak hours of Gamescom, Silksong was by far the largest line. It was smaller on Xbox, but Nintendo's line was just through the roof. So let's talk a bit about Silksong first. And I think the biggest thing that I discovered, because I wanted to peruse through the menus before playing, is the game has a 120Hz mode. So you can play the entire game at 120 FPS. This was the case on other platforms for the first Hollow Knight, so on Xbox Series X you can play that game at 120 FPS, but it's really nice to know that on Switch 2 that will also be the case, and it felt wonderful. When it came to this mode, the menu toggle was exclusively for docked. Handheld is always 120Hz, so there's no toggle. That's always going to be at the maximum refresh rate. But yeah, docked, you have to go in and manually turn that on. But the game itself, surprisingly, I've played it before. This is the exact same demo that they had back at E3 2019. So there's two sections. There's an easier, just sort of introduction with the cutscene, and there's a second harder one. And I am definitely out of practice. My gameplay will not be the best here. But I will say that Hornet is a lot more versatile than the original game. So usually you press a jump and then you hold down and you swing, and it'd be like a Scrooge McDuck kind of pogo stick. Whereas in this one, there's more of a diagonal swing, which takes a while to get used to. But once you really get the hang of it, there's some really elegant combat here. And the game just looks and plays absolutely phenomenally. But not much new, which feels a little bit weird after all this time. So if you've seen gameplay or you've played it in the past, this is the exact same demo, but it still feels great, looks great, 120 FPS, and I cannot wait for the announcement in a few days' time, which will probably have the release date. But yeah, Silksong exists, it's playable, and the Switch 2 version will probably be the best way to play because of the versatility in handheld mode, and also just because it looks and plays amazingly. Now let's talk a little bit about Kirby Air Riders. I missed the direct for this because I was on the plane, so this was my first time knowing anything about Air Riders. And I won't regurgitate all the facts. Sakurai's told you everything, really. But what I played was both a tutorial and also city trial. The tutorial is just teaching you both the main mechanics and also the granular mechanics. So, in Air Ride, basically, if you want to do a sharp turn, you have to sacrifice your speed. So you have to sort of stop and then your turn with a lot more accuracy. But there's also more versatile moves out there. So let's say you're in the air, and if you're going towards the ground and you press that boost button, you're suddenly going to get another burst of speed. So there's some really cool layers to the usual, Air Ride gameplay. But it's called Air Riders because there's multiple characters, and it seemed like it would just be picking from Sakurai-era stuff, but that's not the case. There's Susie, who I played as. So there's lots of cool, bits of Kirby history beyond the Sakurai years. And City Trial is absolutely rad. Much larger map than the GameCube game, and we had 16 players. There were 4 of us, and then a bunch of CPUs, just roaming around the level. And I think one issue I had with the original City Trial was it was quite hard to find anybody, and that's not really the case anymore. There's a lot of Smash flair in this one too, and I think you can feel that. Like when you go from Smash 4 to Smash Ultimate, there are a lot of visual flares that really make the game feel different. Like you feel that smash attack when you make someone fly away. That's all over Air Riders. So much Smash Ultimate DNA is flowing through this game, and it feels phenomenal. You have to wiggle the analog stick to sort of do a spin. Like there's lots of little Sakurai things. It's mostly a one-button game. There's a second button now, actually. You can hop off your vehicle by holding a button. So that's rad as well. But also, I found you could use these shoulder buttons, much like the original Air Ride. So if you want to just play with one hand, you absolutely can. So if you want to just like hold it in your left hand to steer, use one finger to use the drift button, that's perfectly doable. So if you're feeding a baby a bottle of milk or something, just single Joy-Con this game. You can do whatever you want. No one is going to stop you, not even Masahiro Sakurai. But yeah, it's just a really, really great feeling version of Air Ride. That said, it is also just kind of another Air Ride. I wasn't really feeling a drastic evolution, I wouldn't say. It was very much, let's do Air Ride again, but make it more flashy, make it feel better, make it more dynamic, make it bigger, make the stakes higher. That's what it felt like. And I don't think that's a bad thing. When it's a sequel to Air Ride, what do you expect, really? Maybe there's more to this game, maybe there's a story mode or whatever, but in terms of just the general gameplay, it is more Air Ride. So if you're a big Air Ride fan, then good for you. And if you're not a big Air Ride fan, I'm not sure if this is really going to change your mind. It just kind of felt like more of the same, but on a larger level. But it is really cool seeing, far more vehicles, far more characters. And as always with City Trial, the best part of it is that sort of random element at the end. You're building towards something, getting all these different power-ups. And then either you do like a race or like a battle or something. Very similar to Smash Run on 3DS. That's where this came from in the first place. And it looks really beautiful too. That's one thing I have to say. This is a Switch 2 exclusive game. And I think part of that comes through in the scale of the City Trial map. But also there's a lot of really beautiful flourishes. Like when you're going through one of the tutorial racetrack, you get all these petals sort of fly by Kirby. Remember that CG trailer that revealed the game? It feels like that in real time. It doesn't look quite as polished as that, but you get all the little flares or the petals going through the air. You sort of feel things through the visual feedback, which really makes the gameplay just, that really steps it above. So I really enjoyed Kirby Air Riders. I was never really the biggest Kirby Air Ride fan, but this is definitely something a lot further ahead than the original, even if it is following its footsteps. And I can't wait to play more of that game. And Hollow Knight Silksong does not disappoint. That may just be the same demo again, same areas, but playing on Switch 2, this is what I want to play it on. And it's clear that Hollow Knight has more demand than any Nintendo game there. Like Metroid Prime 4 was there, Pokemon was there, Kirby was there, which I heard, by the way, apparently was covered in a black curtain before before the event went public. So I guess that's meant to be a surprise that Kirby was there. But Hollow Knight dwarfed them all. Silksong is bigger than Nintendo, confirmed. Thank you for watching, everybody. Really, really appreciate it. And we've got more Gamescom coverage on the way soon. Catch you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.